Here we go. Oh, yes. Everybody, welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen.
And children and grandparents.
I have your attention.
The Canadian Bro Show, all things Canadian, episode 28.
Starts in 10, 9.
Our favorite spy espionage films of all time. Movies, cinema, whatever you want to call it. Pauly and Johnny, episode 28. The Canadian Bro Show, all things Canadian.
Go.
Oh my goodness. I'm telling you, there's a lot of, so stop it. Come on.
No.
I know. We have absolutely no crowd whatsoever. Oh boy, it's all good. That's right now. That doesn't mean that's not going to happen at some point in the near future.
Right.
In the meantime, welcome to the Canadian Bro Show, episode 28. My name is Paul Bale. I'm the founder and host of the Canadian Bro Show of the first iteration, which is the one that you're watching now. It's not live, but it will be later in the next day or so. And this is the Canadian Bro Show, all things Canadian with Pauly and Johnny. And my partner in crime, my old friend of over 50 years, Mr. John Leister.
Hello.
How you doing, bro?
I'm fine, bro. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good.
Yeah.
As you see, matching your toque, right above you is the subscribe button. And we just want to start off by reminding people, if you enjoy this content, if you've seen our previous 27 episodes or you haven't seen any, and you enjoy the content and you'd like to share the fact that you enjoy the content as much as we do, please subscribe, please like, comment. Yeah, no, we really appreciate it, and it doesn't take much. All you have to do is watch the show. Yeah, just watch the show, hit the pause button, hit subscribe, hit like, and then start watching the show again. It's very easy, and we really appreciate anything you can do for us. In the meantime, the Canadian Bro Show, our first iteration, is all things Canadian. This is our perspective from being a couple of Canadian dudes, eh? And we're hosers, so take off. And if you take off, go get some beers. Bring some beers, and we'll share your beers. We'll drink your beers.
You will. Well,
and we certainly will, but not on camera, not during the show, of course. This is the family-oriented show. In the meantime, episode 28, Johnny, 7 months later. Congratulations for putting up with me for this long. And yeah, no doubt. And at the end of the time, we probably would have been about 32 or 33 if everything worked out technically. But we're starting to get a handle on things.
It's the Matrix.
Well, yeah, and whatever the Matrix is, because I have no idea. And let me just put back our incredible logo. There we go. And Johnny, we're going to talk about episode 28 is our favorite, pretty much of all time. That's debatable, of course. Spy espionage movies.
I'm psyched.
Yeah, I'm psyched too. And I really, when you brought this up, and Johnny likes to suggest a lot of different types of shows, and I really appreciate that, is I thought we had done something similar, or if not the exact same, but apparently we fringed it.
About spy movies, but not as a banner topic per se.
Got it. Okay. And doing so, Johnny, it's quite straightforward. And if somebody was to ask you, what exactly is a spy espionage, film? What does that mean to you? What resonates with you?
It's a movie about a man or a woman who is defending the country. They're sent on missions that are very dangerous. They probably usually to retrieve information, or to rescue someone, or to infiltrate a government. Essentially, they're actors. They're pretending to be someone that they're not. And I think we all like these kinds of stories because, again, it's a kind of a wish fulfillment, because there are people, for real, throughout history who have lived this sort of life, living on the precipice of death and potentially a long, torturous, agonizing death. And yet they're doing it for the most part out of patriotism, I feel.
Wow.
To protect their country from enemy interests. So that's
Wow, I
my
couldn't ask for a better answer to that question. Once again, Johnny is a writer, and he's very eloquent, very passionate, and prolific. And if there's any literary agents out there that happen to be popping by our show,
please like my
um,
stories.
I would highly recommend that we get in contact with you and that you could sample some of Johnny's exceptional writing. It's really quite. And Johnny, could
Thank
you
you.
give people an overview of
Sure.
your?
So I write, thank you for asking. I write primarily crime fiction. My hero is Lee Hacklin. He's a private investigator. My stories take place mostly during the 1970s. I don't like writing about technology. Lee has to do the legwork, easy for me to say, to find the missing child or whatever the case may be. And I just uploaded another one today. It came in at about 20 pages. They're getting shorter and shorter, and I'm totally fine with that. They're more like episodes of a TV series now. And this one is called The Quarterback of Notre Dame. And I would like to email you this one, Paul. I think you might like this one because it's sports related of all things. And I was inspired to do this from our last podcast that we do with Trent.
Yeah, no, I'd like to see it, and I have a varied number of different interests, and I love writing, and I love good writing, and I love your writing, and I've read a lot of your stuff, so I'm happy to read it anytime, of course. And whether it's sports related or not, I have a very diverse background of likes and dislikes, and basketball and sports is one of my favorites, of course, and that is our second iteration, which is all basketball from the Hoop Junkies, Pauly and Raleigh, and soon to be all real estate from Paul Bale and Guest, the third
You are a
iteration of the
triple threat,
Canadian Bro
sir.
Show. Dude, I'm working on it. I just want to keep busy. I just turned 60 and I have a lot of energy, a lot of interest, a lot of passion, and it just keeps me fresh. And I get to hang out with two of my best friends a couple of times of the week, and we can expand on the Canadian Bro Show, and we can make it something that thousands of people twice a week will love to settle in and enjoy free content that's entertaining and valued.
It
And
absolutely can happen, bro. It can
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But to start off with, can I allow you the first opportunity to share your favorite spy espionage film?
All right, I will take the bait, sir. My first choice is True Lies, 1994, written and directed by James Cameron. It's actually
Wow.
a remake of a French comedy film called La Totale. Arnold Schwarzenegger plays Harry Tasker, a U.S. government agent who
What?
struggles to balance his double life as a spy with his familial duties. Jamie Lee Curtis, Tom Arnold, who is very funny as his sidekick. It's really a shame that this wasn't a series of films because they had a terrific chemistry, and the late great Bill Paxton, really I feel one of the funniest comedic performances of all time as the used car salesman who tries to seduce Arnold Schwarzenegger's wife. Really not a very good idea, regardless of what character he's playing. And if you've seen the movie, you might remember the scene where Arnold's taking a car out for a test drive because he thinks this guy is a spy. He thinks Bill Paxton might actually be a spy. Plus, he's also suspects that his wife's cheating on him with this guy. And Bill Paxton
He's
starts
probably both.
about how many women he's had and how the vet gets him wet. And Arnold's just like,
Family show.
just
Family show.
okay, well, it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. You can interpret it as you like.
Well, I mean, he was drooling, is what Johnny's saying. He
Arnold just
was.
like deviates his septum and kills him but it turns out to be just in his mind's eye. Absolutely, I remember the audience just like was killing themselves laughing. So True Lies, I think it's a classic. It's a really fun movie, and it's too bad James Cameron never made another one because I think it had the potential to be a long-running series of films.
Yeah, well, James Cameron did make another one because the guy was so talented and blew up at such a quick, fast pace that other things became more important.
Yeah, I guess so.
Um, and that's a really good one. Honestly, I have not seen that one for a long
Oh, really?
time.
Oh, you have seen it though.
I have, yeah, I've seen almost everything. Um,
Me too.
and uh, and when it comes down to is the ones that I've seen so many. I really want to talk about ones that we haven't talked about before, and one of my favorite is a film that is about sort of Secret Service. So we're blending the lines of spy espionage into a lot of different types of semi-genres. And this one would be the Secret Service, not necessarily James Bond, but something that they tried to do. It was directed by Matthew Vaughn, and it was the first film in this series, and it's called The Kingsman,
Yeah,
The
great movie.
Secret Service.
Yeah.
This is in 2014. This is the first one. This is a spy action comedy. And essentially, the lead actor, a young Taron Egerton, who's was in the second one, a follow-up. His name was Gary Eggsy Unwin, whose late father secretly worked for the spy organization, lives in South London, which is a beautiful place. I lived in South London in a couple of different parts. It's really nice. And a housing estate, which is quite common in the UK, usually government subsidized, and seems to be headed for a life behind bars, whether it's bars drinking or bars in a prison. However, dapper agent Harry Hart, the very esteemed and talented actor Colin Firth, recognizes potential in the youth and recruits him to be a trainee in the Secret Service. Meanwhile, villainous Richard Valentine, there we go, the always talented and prolific Samuel L. Jackson, launches a diabolical plan to help solve the problem of climate change via worldwide killing spree. Sounds like Trudeau should have hired him, and we could have saved billions and trillions of dollars.
The all-purpose solution.
Yeah, it's just
Kill
absolute
everything.
garbage. This film is really, really, really good. It's an MTV movie and TV award for best villain. There are a number of great. Matthew Vaughn's the director. It's just very witty, and it's a fresh sort of take on a parallel James Bond, M16 sort of vibe. And if you haven't seen it, Johnny.
No, I have. I love that movie. And it's actually based on a graphic novel by Mark Miller.
Ah, thank you. Thank you. I knew that. I just forgot the name.
And one of the main characters in the graphic novel is Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill as himself.
Yes, of course. Of course. That's awesome.
But I enjoyed that movie. I heard the second one wasn't as good, though. I didn't.
No. But, I mean, it's a good valiant attempt, and it's hard to really create that genre that's already been done to death by many others. But thank you for the... Johnny, who do you got next?
And Taron Egerton was amazing in Rocket Man, the Elton John biopic.
He was incredible.
That's one of my favorites. Okay, my next choice is probably not one of your favorite movies, one of your favorite James Bond movies, I'm guessing.
Not about me, bro. I love all James Bond films.
My next choice is On Her Majesty's Secret Service, 1969, the sixth James Bond movie produced by Eon Productions. George Lazenby, who was a model of all things, took over from Sean Connery. I think a lot of the reason why he got the part is he bore a pretty strong resemblance to Sean Connery. And I remember this guy got shellacked back in the day. But I think this movie really stands the test of time. I watched it a couple years ago, and I think it's one of the most moving of the Bond films. I'm going through puberty again suddenly, because he actually Peter Brady syndrome. He actually gets married in this one, and of course the gal he marries is the impossibly beautiful Diana Rigg, who was the star of another spy series from the 1960s called The Avengers, before the Marvel Avengers with Patrick McNee. Bond faces Blofeld, Telly Savalas, whom we remember as Kojak back in the day, who's planning to hold the world to ransom by threatening to render all food and plants, what a jerk, and livestock infertile, easy for me to say, through the actions of a group of brainwashed angels of death. Along the way, Bond falls in love and eventually marries Contessa Teresa de Vincenzo, played by Diana Rigg. I really, looking back, I think George Lazenby was very underrated. He certainly was a very physically believable Bond. There's some really fun fight scenes in this movie. And as I said earlier, it has a very, I think it's one of the most moving of the Bond films, because he actually has an emotional connection as opposed to the other films where he's just going after everything in sight. So that's my next choice. The director is Peter Hunt, who was a stunt coordinator on the previous films.
Yeah, I mean, and not a film that a lot of people bring up or talk. And I have watched it a couple of times, and it's not like I wasn't a fan of George Lazenby. I mean, he had his opportunity, and he was lucky to get it. And he was very rugged and handsome, and that's what they were trying.
Deal, and he turned it down. And he stated in many interviews that that's like one of the biggest regrets of his life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so were you saying he wanted to be even more sexy than Sean Connery
He was,
or
he was
David
supposed
Niven?
he was supposed to star in a movie with Bruce Lee before Bruce Lee passed away. And just once he when he turned down the Bond role, just his career essentially ended. He's showed up here and there in some
Yeah.
bit parts, but basically he really sabotaged his career. But to his credit, he actually owns up to it.
Well, I mean, that's at least if you're have character and you're an honest chap, that's at least what you can do. I don't dislike it. I love all Ian Fleming James Bond films. I like all of the M16. We've talked about Ben McIntyre and the book about the original when Churchill
Oh,
was a
so
young
good.
man. Yeah, about the start of the it's fascinating stuff.
It is.
And I really enjoy it. I don't really care. It's just good. I'm
Yeah.
going to go into something that's a little bit more modern that kind of caught me off guard. And I'm a big fan of Ryan Gosling. He's a Canadian actor. A lot of people, well, he's actually a dual national, but whatever, he's Canadian. And he's very talented. And he did a film in 2022 called The Gray Man.
Oh, right. I read the book.
Did you?
Mark Greaney is the author.
Oh, wow. I was just going to get there. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Well, actually, it wasn't. It wasn't. There was actually three writers. It was Joe Russo because the directors are brothers. It's
Right.
Joe Russo and Anthony Russo, and the writers are Joe Russo, Christopher Marcus, and Stephen McFeely. It stars Ryan Gosling, Chris Evans, and Anna de Armas, who is quite lovely. And it's essentially a really fun, witty, and when CIA's most skilled operative, of course, that's loosely based on if they're still alive, whose true identity is known to none, accidentally uncovers a dark agency secrets, a psychopathic former colleague puts a bounty on his head and sets off on a global manhunt by international assassins. I tell you what, this thing from the beginning to the end
I bet it's
is
good.
nonstop,
I
and
believe it.
I'm sure the book's incredible,
No, the first one.
as
There's
they
all
usually
three, but
are.
the first one. Yeah.
This one is the Russo brothers did a great job, and Chris Evans as the badass is equally as impressive as Ryan Gosling, and their battle scenes and the action reminds me of a little bit of John Wick action,
Okay.
little revenge
Gunplay.
action, spy espionage. Excellent film. Go see The Gray Man.
Okay. Good choice. I have read the book and I am a fan of Mark Greaney. He's one of my favorite authors. Okay,
Awesome.
my next choice is slightly more comedic. Austin Powers in Gold Member 2002, the third and hey baby, let's shag. Not safe for word. The third and final installment.
So before you go, you have to let people know what Let's Shag. For those that don't live in the UK, without being pornographic, it is a children's show. Shagging is kissing,
A
right?
term of affection. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
We'll
Okay.
let our viewers' imaginations run wild. Okay, here we go. Mike Myers, Canadian, plays four characters. The title character, Austin Powers, Doctor Evil, Gold Member, the title character, and not safe for work, Fat Bastard. What else do we have here? There's
Farting, smelly fat bastard.
Yeah, there's the movie opens with a biopic parody of the James Bond film Octopussy, which is one of my favorite Bond films. The self-parody is directed by Steven Spielberg, who appears briefly. And I remember the scene where Austin Powers is falling from a plane, and the parachute unfurls with the Union Jack, and he lands in a car next to Gwyneth Paltrow, and he takes off his helmet. And it's actually Tom Cruise. I know you're not the world's biggest Tom Cruise fan, but I remember the audience just lost their minds. Really was a very wonderful surprise. And his impersonation of Mike Myers playing Austin Powers was spot on. He
Yeah.
should do more of that stuff. I I saw this movie at a very dark point in my life. It's dumb. The jokes are really sophomoric, but I just remember like leaving the theater hunched over. That's how hard I was laughing. Absolutely one of the funniest movies I've ever seen, and a great send up of the spy genre. And an affectionate send up, I want to say.
Yeah, what an incredible film. And Mike Myers, I mean, he hasn't been really sort of active recently. He's made so much money he doesn't need to. He can do whatever he wants. Apparently, he owns part of Canada. I'm not sure how big it is, but apparently it's from the proceeds of his exceptional characterization of this psychopathic moron, kind of like synonymous with what's happening sort of in another.
Apparently Lauren Michaels, who produces Saturday Night Live and is still producing the show, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know how old he is, but apparently this affectation. Apparently that's something that he does with a little finger. He probably stopped doing that after the first Austin Powers movie came out, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think in the late '70s in Studio 54, that pinky was the nail was about a half inch grown, and it was used for something else.
Something really
And
powdery.
well, yeah, kind of, and or removing meat tenderloin filament stuck between your
Well,
teeth. Who knows, right? I'm going to go to one of my favorite, and I've seen this in numerous times. When it's a good film, I always like to watch it many times, and it was Syriana. Syriana is the 2005 American political spy thriller, written, directed by Stephen Gagnon, loosely based on Robert Baer's 2000 memoir "See No Evil," and it stars. It's a huge budget. The Middle Eastern oil industry is the backdrop of this tense drama, which weaves together numerous storylines as it should and always will. Bennett Holiday, Jeffrey Wright, great English actor, is an American lawyer in charge of facilitating a dubious merger of oil companies, as they always are, while Brian Woodward, Matt Damon, a Switzerland-based energy analyst, experiences both personal tragedy and opportunity during a visit with Arabian royalty. Meanwhile, veteran CIA agent Bob Barnes, the fantastic and always fantastic George Clooney, uncovers an assassination plot with unsettling origins. This is an Academy Award-winning film and great writing, great direction. And have you seen it?
No, but I hear it's excellent. I
My,
know it got really good reviews back in the day.
yeah, it's really incredible.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen it, it gives 7 out of 10 on IMDb, and Rotten Tomatoes 72%, Amazon 4.4%. It's a politically charged film about the oil industry, which is obviously still going on, and really enjoyable. Definitely go check it out if you get an opportunity.
Good choice.
Thank you.
Okay. My next choice, going to television. I watched this show fanatically. I had every DVD. 24, starring Canadian Kiefer Sutherland, created by Joel Surnow and Robert Cochrane for Fox. The series features an ensemble cast with Kiefer Sutherland starring as American counter-terrorist federal agent Jack Bauer. Each season covers 24 consecutive hours using the real-time method of narration, which is emphasized by the display of split screens and a digital clock. I would burn through these DVDs, like all 24 episodes, in like a day and a half. This is back during my couch potato days, but it's something that I don't really regret redoing. I mean, that's a show I could see myself watching again from beginning to end. There were two spin-offs. The most recent one was called 24 Legacy, and then there was a TV movie called Die Another Day, which was filmed in London, England. And there's a super exciting scene where Jack is being chased by a drone through the streets of London, England, and it's absolutely amazing. And one of my all-time favorite scenes in the history of any scene in movie or TV show is Jack goes after a former president of the United States, played by actor Greg Itzson, who based his character on Richard Nixon. And he's in the back of he's in a cavalcade of like Secret Service cars, like the limousines. And Jack is like Kiefer Sutherland is wearing like this Punisher outfit, like his body is completely covered in head to toe in Kevlar, and his face is like a skull death mask. You got to watch this on YouTube. And the former president is sitting in the back seat and he's screaming, "That's Jack Bauer!" And he's got a machine gun. And Secret Service,
That was pretty good.
the Secret Service agents are shooting at Jack, and the bullets are actually bouncing off his body.
Geez,
And
I wonder why. Could it had something to do with the Kevlar?
it had something to do with it. Yes, it did. Well done. And so that's my next show is 24. It's absolutely amazing. The show is
Uh,
like crack. It was
uh,
just addictive right from the get go.
yeah, I've never done crack, and I stay away from addictive things because of my. Apparently, I've been told I have, or used to have, maybe I still do, an addictive personality. I don't know if that's positive or negative, but I did watch that film. I thought it was quite good, and I really enjoyed some of the scenes in that. But not the best film in the world, but there's some really good action and some good writing, some good actors.
Yeah.
It's a good one, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to one of my favorite series. When I think about when Johnny came up with spy, espionage, thrillers, our favorite films, this first one that came to my mind because, The Bourne Identity, 2002. Jason Bourne, Matt Damon, suffers from a psychogenic amnesia and is forced to fight to unlock his identity because he can't remember anything, and a mysterious connection to the CIA, which really is such an incredible. I mean, we've heard it so many times, but they just really captured this. And a man salvaged near death from the ocean by an Italian fishing boat. When he recuperates, the man suffers from total amnesia, without identity or background, except for a range of extraordinary talents in all kinds of fighting, linguistic skills, self-defense, and 47 passports with an unlimited amount of cash.
Is that all?
that speak that speak of a
And
dangerous
rolled up magazine.
that speak of a dangerous past. He sets out a desperate search, assisted by initially rebellious Marie. Initially, we won't go any further, to discover who he really is and why he's being lethally pursued by multiple assassins. This film really set the entire series off, and it's one of my favorite spy espionage films.
Yeah.
And it's not James Bond, it's not The Kingsman, it's not any of these others. It was just fresh and real, and the fighting, the direction, the writing. And imagine having no idea what even your name is, but you have 47 passports and a ton of cash and USBs that give you a wonderful series.
Yeah, I've seen nothing. Did you see the one with Jeremy Renner? What was that, The
Yes.
Foreign Legacy? How was
Yes.
that?
Well, unfortunately, what happened to him, he's lucky to be alive. And I really, I like him. I just didn't like that particular episode. Kind of like George Lazenby doing James Bond.
Right.
It wasn't bad. It's just, it wasn't my
Yeah,
cup of tea.
He wasn't Jason Bourne, right? He was another character.
I understand that. But, I mean, they
No,
couldn't
I
get...
haven't seen the movie.
Well, go see it.
Okay.
And they wanted Jason Bourne, but he wouldn't do it because he said, I'm done with the series. So they brought in, because they committed, somehow he walked away from the whole thing, but whatever.
Then he did another one, right? The Bourne Redundancy?
Well, yeah, he's done a number of others, actually. Right. And in fact, I think we mentioned in a previous episode that he's actually, they brought it back and they signed him to 2 or 3 more. Oh. At the end of the day, it's when they throw a bucket load of cash at you, it's... And you've already had success, it's kind of a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, very good. Bourne Identity, great movie.
Yeah.
That gal,
the original, 2002.
That actress is in another really great movie called Run, Lola, Run. Have you seen that? Where she's running to try and save her boyfriend who's the drug dealer? Okay. Yeah. My next choice is...
I enjoyed that.
Back to comedy. 1984's Top Secret, starring Val Kilmer. Written and directed by Zaz, the Zucker brothers, and Jim Abrams, who made some of the funniest movies of all time. Omar Sharif, Peter Cushing, Michael Gough, who played Alfred in the earlier Batman movies. The film parodies various film styles or genres, such as spy films, Elvis Presley, and World War II movies. And absolutely one of the funniest scenes in the history of film is where Val Kilmer is sitting in a prison cell, and he's scratching the marks on the wall of the cell, and someone comes to visit him, and he's got a long beard, if I recall correctly, and he goes, my God, how long have you been here? And he looks at the marks on the wall, and he says, I've been here almost 20 minutes. Great movie. Very underrated movie.
I love it. Yeah. I really enjoy that one. This is the interesting thing when you brought up this, because we flirted around the boundaries of this and the parallel universes that come into it, and it's really quite interesting. And I'm glad you convinced me to do it, because it really opens up a lot of movies that maybe weren't so commercially
Right.
relevant, but when you go back and watch them, is fantastic. And one of them is my favorite, because one of my favorite actors, regardless of heritage, religion, color of their skin, whatever, is Denzel Washington. Is one of my favorite actors of all time. Top 10 for sure. Top 20, because I have so many. He did a film called Safe House.
Oh,
Did you ever see that?
no, I've not seen that one. Don't know
Oh my God, man!
it.
It
I've lived a very
is.
sheltered existence, Paul.
No, but it's not about that. It's so good, and unfortunately, I can't seem to load it. But Denzel Washington is a secret agent, a spy, and he's been compromised, and he's been arrested. And I think in the film, it seems that he knows that he's been arrested. Safe House is a 2012 American action thriller directed by Daniel Espinosa, written by David Guggenheim, and starring Denzel Washington and our Canadian friend Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, Deadpool.
And Brendan Gleeson's in it, and it's really really cool. It's a little bit different, but I really liked it, and it's a slow burn film, 2012, um, and it's from the past year. Rookie CIA agent Matt Weston, Ryan Reynolds, went to Kitsilano, graduated from our high school.
1986. Alumni.
Yeah, yeah, but the Blue Demons forever.
There you go. Was he a
Um,
player? Was he a basketball player?
I don't think so,
No.
but he's very successful,
Also.
very charming, and very rich. Has been eager to prove himself while cooling his heels at an inactive South African post. What that means is he is a CI agent that is in South Africa, and he's working in a safe house, a series of safe houses where people of political conflict and spy and espionage and whatever are trying to get away from the bad guys that want to kill them. And these safe houses are set up all around the world. And he's alone in the safe house, and he's bored. And all of a sudden, he's been very eager to prove himself, but he's bored out of his head, and he wants to move up in his career property ladder. And it's not happening. So he gets an opportunity when Tobin Frost. I love writers that can come up with good names, and you're good at that too. And that's
Yeah.
Denzel Washington.
Tobin. Sounds very ominous.
Tobin Frost, a turncoat operative, is brought to Weston's safe house in South Africa for debriefing. But soon after his arrival, mercenaries attack, of course, because they're all over it. Even if it's a safe house, especially in South Africa.
Safe house.
What are you going to do? And Weston and Frost barely escape, of course, because of their connected utilitarian skill set. One wants to escape, the other wants to put him in jail, like he's supposed to. The two men must join forces and try to stay alive long enough to figure out who wants them dead. It's just a great romp. It's fun. It's good to see such an incredible actor like Denzel chew the fat, and to see someone like Matt Damon hold it together, and people like Matt Damon, like Ryan Reynolds, they played a lot of the same things. And at the end of the day, it's a good film. It's 98 minutes of. I'd highly recommend it. It's very, very, very good.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to go back in time and back to 007, 1981's For Your Eyes Only, starring Roger Moore, directed by John Glenn in his feature directorial debut. Roger Moore, Carol Bouquet, if I'm pronouncing the name correctly, Chaim Topol, who played Dr. Hans Zarkov in Flash Gordon, hilarious performance. Lynn Holly Johnson as an Olympic level ice skater. And the film follows Bond as he attempts to locate a missile command system while becoming tangled in a web of deception spun by rival Greek businessmen, along with Melina Havelock, a woman seeking to avenge the murder of her parents. This movie came on the heels of Moonraker, which was obviously very inspired by Star Wars, probably outraged a lot of the diehard James Bond fans who really didn't want to see him in outer space. And so they brought it back to basics with this one. And this movie has one of my all-time favorite Bond moments where there's a car on the edge of a cliff, and one of the bad guys is at the steering wheel, and he's looking at Bond, pleading for mercy in his eyes, and Bond just puts his foot on the car and gives it a little kick, and off it goes. I love stuff like that in movies. It's one of the absolute classic, badass Bond moments of all time. And Roger Moore, with the slack look on his face, absolutely pulled it off.
Roger Moore, you talk about, everyone always says, the first James Bond, Sean Connery, but, and then Lazenby comes along. He wasn't the first, by the way, Roger Moore or Sean Connery wasn't the first. It was David Niven. And then Sean Connery, and then Lazenby briefly. And then before Moore, there was Timothy Dalton. Do you remember him?
Oh, yeah. Living Daylights and License to Kill.
There we go. He did too. And then he was gone. And then Roger Moore came in. Roger Moore was...
Brosnan came after Timothy Dalton.
Yeah, either or. Either or. We're going back 40 years, 50 years, whatever. But they're all really good in their own way. And I love going back to James Bond and Ian Fleming films and the whole... It doesn't really matter who's in it because most of them are pretty good.
Yeah.
Not many of them are really bad, if not any. I think they all did a really decent job and well respected. And it's, my least favorite James Bond, believe it or not, is the most recent.
No Time to Die?
No, just the most recent James Bond.
That was the name of it, right? No Time to Die? Wasn't that the title?
He's done 5, I think, 4 or 5, but I'll bring it up later because I'm going to bring up one of them. But the film I want to talk about right now is a film that, because Johnny and I come from books when we're so old that in the 60s and 70s, we didn't have a lot of TV. We had to go to movies. We had to go to the library. We had to read. And one of my favorite authors of all time was a British author named John Boorman, and he did a film called The Tailor of Panama. And it is The Tailor of Panama is a 2001 spy thriller directed by John Boorman from a screenplay he co-wrote with the author John le Carre and Andrew Davis. And of course, we've talked about John le Carre, one of my favorite spy espionage writers, and Harry Pendell, a Cockney ex-con who has reinvented himself, of course, as a popular tailor to the rich and powerful of Panama, is famous for his storytelling as well as his suits, of course. But this time, his tales carry lethal repercussions, preyed upon ruthless, seductive British spy Osnord. Harry spins a yarn that inadvertently sets off a series of events to destroy everything he values in his life. Incredible. And
I've not seen this one.
Yeah, you have to. And it's by our James Bond. Nobody thought that he would be James Bond, and that's Pierce Brosnan.
Right.
And essentially, A Tale of Panama is a 2001 spy thriller directed by John Boorman from the screenplay he co-wrote with le Carre and Andrew Davis, based on the 1996 novel the same name. Stars Pierce Brosnan and Jeffrey Rush, who's a great actor. Rush portrays the title character, a former convict turned tailor who is strong-arming by a moral M16 agent, Bronson, into spying for the Panamanian government. Jamie Lee Curtis, Brendan Gleeson, Catherine McCormick. I mean, there's some really heavy hitters here, along with Daniel Radcliffe in his very first film.
How old was he? Was he just a little kid?
Yeah, I mean, he was like, 13, 14, something like that. But he always, even when he was 35, he looked 13, 14.
I always thought Harry Potter was his first movie. I didn't realize he'd acted before then.
Yeah, dude. I'm a wealth of, I like to surprise.
You are a human internet. of useful information, like me.
Thank God I have the internet, eh?
Hard to believe we grew up without this stuff.
Oh God.
We
Well,
managed.
that's why we were in Vidimatica in the library. I
Right.
mean,
Oh, yeah. Our haunts.
you
Okay.
know,
Sorry. Did you want to say anything more about that one?
no, no, I
Okay.
just
My next choice is Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol 2011, the live action directorial debut of Brad Bird, who made movies like Ratatouille and The Incredibles. And J.J. Abrams is one of the producers. Simon Pegg, what do we have here? Story wise, I mean, this movie has. I saw this movie with our mutual friend Richard DeBacher in IMAX, and the scene where Ethan Hunt is hanging off that building in Dubai. I think it's one of the tallest cities in the world. I remember Richard. I don't mean to throw Richard under the bus, but I'm just saying I don't think you mind me sharing the story. He actually had to look away from the screen. A lot of people did because it just gave you such a feeling of vertigo. And I'm just reading off the phone here. In the film, the Impossible Missions Force is shut down after being publicly implicated in the bombing of the Kremlin, causing Ethan Hunt and his team to go without resources or backup in a life-threatening effort to clear the names. I mean, this is a really fun, action-packed movie. I'm a fan of this series, although I have not seen the last one. But yeah, that's my next choice. And of course, based on the long-running television series from the 1960s. Peter Graves, yeah, he was still alive when they made the first Mission Impossible, directed by Brian De Palma, and they actually offered him to come back as
yeah,
that character, and
yeah,
he turned it down because,
yeah.
spoiler warning, it turned out that Jim Phelps in the movie, is played by John Voight, was the mastermind of evil, and good for Peter Graves for doing that. I mean, talking about just getting back to integrity earlier, because they offered him a ton of cash to come back as a character. He said, "No, I'm not coming back as this guy because you've totally corrupted him, and that's not the character I played back in the day." I loved the TV series when I was a kid too, and of course, the Lalo Schifrin, composed one of the greatest themes of all time. That's impossible to forget, right? Yeah.
Wow. I mean, you slay me sometimes. It is that is one of my favorite television series.
Oh, me
With
too.
the the bomb's going to go off, and
Right.
just that's how it started. And honestly, I could when I watched that the first 2 minutes before it hit the commercial, I was like, "Oh my God, this is incredible."
Yeah.
Lying in Belfoot Rentals on my stomach and in front of the 10-inch RCA black and white, and it was incredible. I absolutely love it. I'm going to go back to a little bit more of an esoteric one that director Steven Soderbergh. A lot of people, a very talented director. He's done a lot of very successful stuff, but he's not afraid to do fringe stuff. And he did a film in 2011 called Haywire. Freelance covert operative Mallory Kane is hired by her handler to various global entities to perform jobs with governments can't authorize. And you can just imagine where that goes.
Mm.
Mallory Kane is actually a female actor that started off in the female MMA wrestling.
Right. Right.
And her name is Gina Carano, is a highly trained operative for government security contractor. Her missions take her to the world's most dangerous arenas. After Mallory successfully frees a hostage journalist, she's betrayed, of course, and left for dead, of course, by someone in her own agency, of course. Spies and espionage, nothing changes. Everybody's trying to kill everybody. Knowing her survival depends on learning the truth behind her double cross, Mallory uses her black ops training, and boy, she can kick ass. She's a tough gal. And to set a trap, but things go awry, as they can and do. Mallory knows that she'll die unless she can turn the tables on her adversary. And honestly, it's not a big film, but if you want to kill an hour and a half and enjoy a kick-ass 21st century woman survive and kill and decimate corruption, fantastic film.
I have not seen this movie, but I remember watching the trailer back in the day and some
Really?
really amazing fight choreography, as I
Oh,
recall.
yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And she does all of it. By the way,
Yeah.
she does all of her own stunts, which
Amazing.
is quite impressive.
Okay. Well, speaking of martial arts, my next choice, here's a segue. Now, we talked about this movie on another podcast, but I also feel that it counts as a spy movie because Bruce Lee actually does play a secret agent in Enter the Dragon, 1973, his final film. which was released a few weeks after he tragically passed away under mysterious circumstances, some might say.
It's not really
Directed by Robert,
mysterious. We all know what happened.
Robert, possibly murdered. Robert Klaus was the director. Bruce Lee, John Saxon, and Jim Kelly. A great bromance that these three characters have. They play martial artists slash agents for their own countries who have entered a martial arts tournament on Han's Island. And spoiler warning, it turns out that Han is actually running an opium ring. I mean, this is just a relentlessly fun movie with a lot of humor. Bruce Lee was he was such a real well-rounded guy. He wasn't just a great athlete. He was also very smart. He wrote a lot of his movies, and he was very funny. There's a lot of humor in this film. And my dad took me to this movie back in the day. God bless you, Dad. Thank you for doing that. And it was just one of those movies where, like you said in another podcast, you just want to leave the theater and get another ticket and watch it all over again. It's really a classic.
Yeah, it's interesting, and one theme that we've been doing this are Johnny and Pauly, cinema film reviews or whatever you want to call it. We're going to call it something at some point sooner than later. But the one thing that's come up, Johnny, is that your dad, who's no longer in your world or life or whatever, was very consistent on taking you to lots of movies.
We went to he took me to all the Bond films. He loved that stuff just as much as I did.
Yeah, which is awesome. and coincidentally, my mom did the same with me because she loved all the James Bond films. So I remember seeing, I think it was Dr. No was my first, or 1960. I was 4 years old. She took me to the Varsity Theater up in Point Grey, and we went for Chinese. And then we saw the movie, and I was like, they wouldn't let me in because I was a kid, but I was engrossed. She bought me popcorn. I didn't shut up. It was like she could enjoy an entire movie without having to worry about her kid who was sitting next to her because he was so enthralled, not just with the popcorn and all the butter and the great Chinese, at Varsity Grill next door, but I was able to watch James Bond. And to this day, it just captures the imagination. Yeah. My next film is a film that, I think it's probably my top 10 spy, political, war, espionage films. And the more I've seen it now, probably 10 times, maybe more. And every single time I watch it, I miss something. And Michael Bay is the director. And if you've seen any Michael Bay films, and I'm sure you have.
Well, many. Oh, yeah.
He knows how to create action and intrigue and keep it moving. And this is one of my favorite. It's called 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi.
Yep, seen it. Read the book too.
Oh, when everything went wrong, 6 men had the courage to do what was right. Well, it wasn't right. They had to survive. Yeah. But it was right. But they had to survive.
They kept calling for help and it never came.
No, there was no one. And they were completely overtaken. Yeah. John Krasinski, who's just exploded, Pablo Schrader, and a bunch of guys you wouldn't know, but if you saw them, is the true story of Benghazi. Trump was always, the fat orange blob in diapers, is always complaining about Hillary Clinton and the emails. And I have to be careful what I say, but now that he's in charge of the most powerful country in the world, and it's just frightening. But this story is based on a true story, and it's really, Michael Bay just hits this thing out of the park.
It's absolutely gripping. It's very sad, but it's very uplifting at the same time.
Very much so, and I had to bring it up because I felt it was really important. I had voided in all of the shows that were very close to this sort of genre. And I just had to bring it up this time because it just blows my mind.
Yeah, that's a great choice. Yeah, people need to see that movie. I agree with you 100%. Okay, I think I have one more, and then I think I'm done, bro.
What are we at time-wise?
Time-wise, we're at 48 minutes and 43 seconds.
Okay.
So I think we're going to cross the finish line pretty soon. My last choice for our favorite spy espionage movies is sort of the father of the Austin Powers series, I want to say. Our Man Flint is a 1966 spy-fi comedy film that parodies. It's kind of a parody, but it's kind of sincere. It's more tongue-in-cheek than an out-and-out parody, I feel. Stars James Coburn as Master Spy Derek Flint. A sequel was released a year later called Our Man Flint. These movies are really fun. Music by the great Jerry Goldsmith, one of the great film composers of all time. And you can watch. I'm sure you can watch both of these movies on YouTube. They're really fun and entertaining, and they're not trying to, be politically, certainly not woke or any of that stuff. And James Coburn was just a really great, charismatic, and physically, he also trained with Bruce Lee. And so I think I'm done after that. After those two, you've seen those movies, right?
I've seen them both. I remember them well. I'm a huge James Coburn fan. And when I saw the first Our Man Flint and In Like Flint, I believe was the other one.
Right. They offered him a third one, but he wanted to do other things. He didn't want
Yeah,
to be cast.
yeah, and he'd kind of like it was like an American James Bond,
Mm.
and he was very good at it. It was really funny, and very charming. But I didn't know the underlying message of the pills and popping and all that stuff. But I was too young. Um, but James Coburn, you look at what he's done is pretty much incredible, and he always did it with such charisma and
Yeah.
charm.
He could do comedy, drama, action. He could do any genre. He was like Jimmy Stewart. He was just
Yeah, yeah, he was
yeah,
just and really well respected, and he was with Bruce Lee and
great
Kareem
voice.
Abdul-Jabbar and a bunch of the L.A. Steve McQueen. They were all into like kung fu and smoking pot and hanging out. It was the 60s and 70s, and they were just and Coburn, he had a long career, did a lot of Western, a lot of war films, very charming. He had the
Great
best teeth
escape.
in the world, best smile in the world.
Yeah.
And that brings back so many memories. I'm just going to bring up one more because I was trying to think of something that really I've seen so many. Anytime I see a film more than 5 times, there's something wrong with me. And this film is one of those films, and it is a spy espionage. It is a thriller. It is a war film, and it is a bunch of greedy, psychopathic espionage spies that are hired to steal hundreds of millions of dollars from a drug cartel. And the film's called Triple Frontier.
Don't know.
Okay,
Sorry.
here we go.
My bad.
No, don't say it's not your bad. It's my good because I always come up with this stuff so that you and others will watch it. Loyalties are tested when 5 friends and former special forces operatives reunite to take down a South American drug lord. And not just take all of his money and leave the country if they can. Unfortunately, unleashing a chain of unintended coincidences. And this movie is unbelievably fun. Listen to this cast: Ben Affleck, Oscar Isaac, Charlie Hunnam, Garrett Hedlund, Pedro Pascal. These are all big players. And essentially this film is a bunch of ex-special forces leading by Oscar Isaac, who's the head, contacts Ben Affleck, Hunan, Pedro Pascal, and say, look, we have intel on a drug lord in Central South America that has all of his money on his main residence. And there's hundreds of millions of dollars because it's a drug cartel.
Oh,
We
no.
just have to simply penetrate the country illegally, break into his house illegally when he has 100 security guards,
I can imagine.
and then find the money, steal it, and take it back, and we're all multimillionaires for the rest of our life. Perfect scenario, right?
Easy peasy.
Yeah. Well, for these guys, they're all psychos. They're all they're all specially gifted.
Right.
And this film showcases the before, the beginning, and the after. And because you haven't seen it, Highly recommend. It's nothing like you have seen. Director J.C. Chandor is very lucky to have all of these big players, and it is Triple Frontier. It is absolutely fantastic, and will keep you captured right from the beginning to the end. It's incredible.
Sounds great. Okay, I think I'm done. I mean, I was going to mention Casino Royale, but I had a feeling that that was going to be on your list, so I didn't want
Well, I was
to.
going to too, but I couldn't remember. Out of all Daniel Craig's James Bond ones, there's one that stands out, and I can't remember which one's the best because the others weren't so good.
Out of the Daniel Craig movies that I've seen, Casino Royale, I want to say is my favorite Bond movie of all time. It's
Right.
probably the one that I've seen the most
All
times.
all time, eh?
Yeah,
Holy
believe it
crap.
or not, 2006. I've read the book. I think Casino Royale is the only Ian Fleming book that I've read. It is a very faithful. It's probably the most faithful adaptation of an Ian Fleming book, directed by Martin Campbell, who also directed Goldeneye, which is another great Bond film with the first Pierce
Yeah.
Brosnan film. He also directed the Zorro films with Antonio Banderas, which is really fun. And it's Bond's first mission as an agent. What I love about this movie is that he's a little bit green. He's a little bit. He makes mistakes, and he kind of
Which
looks.
of course James Bond doesn't,
Yeah,
right?
well, it's the beginning of his career, and
Yeah.
he looks at himself in the mirror in one scene, kind of like what am I doing? Do I really want to do this? And I'm like, who you can? Of course you want to do this. This is what you're good at. You're good at killing bad guys. Get over yourself.
Yeah.
And a great fight choreography, a great theme song by Chris Cornell. Yeah, you know my name, which I sang at karaoke recently.
Love Chris Cornell.
I didn't butcher it too badly.
No,
And
I mean if I could sing, I'd love to sing like Chris Cornell.
yeah, he had a great voice. I believe he's no longer with us. And a
No.
really amazing opening title. All the Bond movies have very memorable opening title sequences. But do you
Yeah.
remember the playing cards going through the air and the
Oh,
silhouette of Bond? He's in black and he's being attacked on all sides and he's doing his martial arts moves. Like absolutely one of the coolest, most sublimely exciting opening title sequences of all time. And what I love the rawness and the brutality of Casino Royale. I love the violence of the movie, and I just think that it really captured the Bond character, the ruthlessness of his character. And of course, by the end of the movie, he says, my name is Bond, James Bond, for the first time. So it's
yeah.
kind of the origin of James Bond, which I
Well,
love.
it was the first film, if I remember correctly. A lot of people thought it was pretty good, but it wasn't his best. But I will add to that. Uh, Casino Royale is a 2006 spy film, the 21st in Eon Productions James Bond series, the third screen adaptation of Ian Fleming's 1953 novel. After receiving a license to kill, British Secret Service agent James Bond Daniel Craig heads to Madagascar, where he uncovers a link to Le Chiffre,
Mm.
the wonderful and talented Mads Mikkelsen, the Swedish Scandinavian actor, a man who finances terrorist organizations. Ooh. Learning that Le Chiffre plans to raise money in a more high stakes poker game, which I love the whole poker aspect.
Mm.
M16 sends, M16 is the private British Secret Service, which we talked about previously in a few shows, to play against him, gambling that their newest 00 operative, 007, will topple the man's. I think this is an it's not the best one, but the best to start. And then they went down a little bit, and then Daniel Craig came back with another one. I think that's a great one to finish the show, Johnny. So thank you very much for that.
And
I
just a
was actually
quick
going to add it, and you were absolutely right on that. But in the meantime, I just wanted, on behalf of Johnny and myself, thank you very much for joining us on the Canadian Bro Show, our first iteration of All Things Canadian with Pauly and Johnny. We're very happy to talk about one of our favorite genres. We do the Pauly and Johnny Cinema Film Review series, which we've done probably 15 of now, maybe more.
Siskel and Ebert live.
Yes,
Yours
and
live on.
in memory of Siskel and Ebert, because we both enjoyed their show for decades.
They're
And
great.
we're certainly not them, but we really enjoy what we're doing. We're film buffs. And we just want to reiterate to people out there that have forgotten about all these great films that, hey, if you're bored and you have a couple hours, you can find something really good to watch if you have the knowledge. And having the knowledge is watching the Canadian Bro Show with all things Canadian. It's pop culture. It's all kinds of things. It's not just Canadian. It's film. It's food. It's love. It's lifestyle. It's passion. It's writing. It's sports. It's everything. So in the meantime, my name is Paul Bale. I'm the founder and host of the Canadian Bro Show. I'm here with John Leister, the very talented co-host of the Canadian Bro Show and a good old friend of mine for many, many decades. And we will see you in the next week. This show will be live.
Did you bring a book?
The show will be live in the next day or so. Sorry?
Did you bring a book?
I did.
Okay, I have one too. I have a pun.
You go with yours. Do your pun.
I got this at the library today in the large print section. American Titan, written by Mark Elliott. It is a biography of one of my favorite actors, John Wayne.
Oh. Wow. Okay. That was surprising. I had no idea. And so before we go into the pun, I just want to, John and I, we have a lot of similarities in our taste. We both love war films. We love thrillers, spy films, espionage. We love it all. And this particular one kind of fell into my lap. And as it turns out, it was my grandfather's book, which I got a bunch of his when I sold, God bless him, 5 years ago, I sold my grandparents' townhome in Kelowna. And I was able to, grab a whole bunch of really good books because I like to read when I can find time. And this one is called Unbroken. And a female, Laura Hildebrand. And it's a World War II story of survival, resilience, and redemption, like many of them are. And I haven't read it, but I have done some research on it. And it's really well done, exceptionally well written. And lots of people like it. So I'm just waiting. I'm hopefully waiting. I'm going to get spring, which is just around the corner in Kelowna. And I can go down the beach and put my chair up on the lake and kill 2-3 hours and just give it a go. And that being said, the world is your oyster. If you're interested in a genre, whether it be film or written, or you want to read some of Johnny's incredible, impressive writing, the world is your oyster. Make that choice. Manifest it. In the meantime, Johnny has a pun to close the show out.
Okay, here we go. Hold on to your seat, everybody. 5 ants rented an apartment with another 5 ants. Now they're 10 ants. Thank you.
Jesus. The depth is it's.
Yeah, I picked that one because it's real estate related.
I get it.
That one.
No, I like that. I appreciate that. And we're going to do a real estate show where you interview me when I get my real estate iteration, the 3rd iteration.
I'll have to do some homework for that one.
all real estate with Paul Bale and guests.
More than I do about real estate, bro.
No, I mean that's why you're the perfect person, because this is about education.
What is real estate?
It's a very, very twisted and difficult industry, and you need to hire the right professionals in order to go into that industry.
Like
and well, it's not just me. I offer a certain set of professional circumstances, but I can lead you in the right direction.
You sound like Liam Neeson from Taken.
Without a gun. I'm not trying to wax someone. But in the meantime, thank you very much, everybody, for joining episode 28. All our favorite and the best spy espionage films of all time and all things Canadian with Pauly and Johnny.
Thank you so much.
And yes, we're going to sign off and wish everybody that you find love, happiness, peace, health, and be kind out there. It's free and it's easy. Take care, and we'll look forward to seeing you.
Most importantly, don't think about it. Do it.
Just do it. Take care. Peace.
Bye.